Huge news out of the world of baseball. Blue Jays star infielder Bo Bichette is leaving Toronto and is signing a 3-year, $126 million contract with the New York Mets. Joining us to break down the news is Blue Jays broadcaster Ben Shulman. Ben, thanks so much for being with us today. I saw that tweet going out and my heart sank a little bit. But what was your first reaction when you heard the news?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Fiza. I mean, first reaction is sad, and I think I wasn't trying to bring everyone down, but I wanted to communicate a kind of sad gratitude in the tweet. When Bo Bichette came to Toronto, I was just like anyone else, a fan watching this team, and a huge fan of him as a player, and then to get even closer to his process and seeing the work that he put in and thinking of all the big moments that he either brought joy to me as a fan or brought joy to all the fans, over the last couple of years when I've been more intimately around the team. It's a tough loss, and I think it's one that's going to sting Blue Jays fans for a while because they've really watched him develop as a person and as a player. And I think very few people ever had anything to say about Bo Bichette except overwhelmingly positive things because of how great of a baseball player he was, but also hardworking and dedicated of a player.
And it was really incredible to see him getting that opportunity to play in the World Series, coming off an incredible season for the Blue Jays here. I got to ask, what impact do you think Bo's departure will have on the Jays and the lineup?
Yeah, there's no doubt it's a huge loss to not have Bo Bichette on your team. He's an incredibly talented player, and I think no lineup in baseball would be the same after Bo Bichette is gone. I still think the Blue Jays will hit. I think they have a lot of really good players in there. I think adding Kazuma Okamoto helps insulate them a little bit from some of the damage of losing Bo Bichette, but that's an irreplaceable player. I really think that there are few people in the game who can do what he does on an everyday basis. So it's going to have to be a team effort. And I also think the Blue Jays, in how they've signed players this offseason, they've signed 3 different pitchers already. I think that the shift of the team might go slightly more back toward defense. Not all the way back, but they might rely on hitting a little bit less to win games.
Let's talk about what's next for Bo here. Reports say that he could move from shortstop to third base. How do you think that could play out?
Yeah, it was a real interesting move when I saw the Mets picked him up because my first thought was, where are they going to play him? They have Francisco Lindor at shortstop where Bo usually plays, and Lindor is one of the best shortstops in baseball. You can't move him off that spot. And then they just traded for a former Blue Jay and Marcus Semien, who played beside Bo at second base for the Blue Jays in 2021 and will play second base, you'd imagine, for the Mets in 2026. So kind of the only spot left for Bo in that case is to go play third base, which he really hasn't played. He's played a lot of short, a very small amount of second in his career, and we saw that in the World Series this year. He hasn't played much third. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works for Bo and how he adjusts to that position. But I think outside of that, you're looking at what is a really good situation for Bo Bichette. Obviously, he is pretty well paid from this deal. He has opt-outs in the contract that allow him to go back to free agency whenever he wants. If he has an awesome year this year, he could just go right back into free agency again and get more money. So a lot of things are really working out for him, but playing third base is going to be a new challenge that I'll be excited to see how he tackles that, something we never really saw with the Blue Jays.
Not only third base, but he's also going to be playing in a new city. Playing in Toronto is one thing, but there's so much pressure in playing when it comes to New York. That fan base is intense, if I could use that word. Not taking anything away from Jays fans, of course, but how do you think Bo will handle that?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. I mean, I think he's handled Toronto really well. Like you said, it's not identical, but he's a pretty serious guy and not the loudest talker. And I think sometimes that benefits you in the big markets where you're not necessarily going to be as liable to say something you didn't mean to say. So I think that he'll be fine for New York. And obviously he's been prepared for the big leagues for a long time, seeing his dad play in the big leagues before him and then having this experience at this point and already being 7 seasons really into his career. So I think it'll be fine for him in New York, but I'll be intrigued to see what it's like because not only is it New York, but the Mets just had several franchise staples move on. Pete Alonso being one of them, going to the Baltimore Orioles, and kind of their main move to replace those guys is Bo Bichette. So now you would imagine some pressure, or at least some attention, is going to be put on his shoulders. And to watch how he responds, I'm sure he's going to respond great. He's a great baseball player, but watching how he responds will be an intriguing, I think, storyline to begin the year.
Okay, a bittersweet update as we're getting here today for baseball fans. We're bidding goodbye to Bo Bichette, but Ben Shulman, as you say, he is awaiting an exciting next chapter here. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you so much for having me.